Okay, I'm joined today by Sarahi. I really appreciate her being here with us. Sarahi lost her grandmother, Philomena, in October to COVID-19. And Philomena was 75 and a resident of Hammond since 1985. Is that correct? Well, tell us a little bit about your grandma. You know, one of the things that we're trying to do with this project is put a human face on some of the folks that we've lost to this horrible virus. Tell us who she was as a person.
Well, my grandma, she was a very fun person. She was the type of person that if you asked her, hey, would you like to travel to Florida tomorrow? She'd be like, yeah, why not? So she actually did travel a lot during her lifetime. She went to different countries, like she went to Italy, she went to the Holy Land, and she traveled a lot of places in the US. And I mean, our whole family has always been like this, but it was just interesting because, you know, she was much older than us and she always had that energy to go. And even if she didn't go out with us, like at night to the restaurants or the parks, she would cook for us and she was always happy just to be there with us. But yeah.
So very adventurous person.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. And then she was also very loving. She actually took care of me and my cousins, and especially me because when I was much younger, my mom was working night shifts. And so my dad was working during the day, and so there was no time for us to really see each other. But I stayed with my grandma, and I mainly lived with her until I was about 9 years old. And then anytime I would get mad at my parents or anything, when I moved in with them, it was interesting because every time I had a fight with them, I always went with my grandma. I would pack up my luggage and leave and stay at my grandma's house, stay there for a couple of days and go back. But she always had her doors open for any of us.
Was this during your teen years when you'd have to fight?
Yeah.
How did I guess? I have two teenagers in my household, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, I mean, even still now, I'm more of a mature adult. I still, this past year was staying at her house because I was, just because I felt like it, or I would get into an argument with my mom or something.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Tell me about, did you take some of these trips with your grandma during her adventurous times? Did you go on some of these trips with her, and where did you go? What were some of the experiences?
Yeah, we traveled a lot to Florida, to Orlando. We went a lot to Disney World. I think that was a main place, but sometimes we would, for like Labor Day weekend, we would just plan to go anywhere. I mean, literally, we just grab the map when maps were being used, and we would just kind of point out a place and be like, oh yeah, let's go. So we went to places like St. Louis, more down the southern part of Indiana, Texas, just a lot of places. And then afterward, when she started getting a little bit much older, I visited a lot of places that she wasn't able to go. So like, for example, the Holy Land, I went there twice. One of them was for my studies, and then the other one was more like a spiritual retreat. She wasn't able to go, of course, but we would communicate, and I would try to bring back her memories of the places that she visited, and she enjoyed it a lot. I think one of the most meaningful places I've been to that she wasn't able to go was to Bolivia in 2019. I came back and wrote a piece for a magazine, and it was about her, about how she had struggled a lot to get here to the US. And she would always talk about the poverty that she went through in Mexico, where, you know, they barely had any food to put on the table, and how proud I felt that because of my grandma's work, all her hard work, her labor, really did like show up in my life, because then I was able to travel to some other place. And I visited this child who her parents, I believe, were migrants. They were living in Spain, and it was just like a child center where a lot of the children had their family members in a different country trying to bring money back to their country. And it kind of like reminded me of my grandma. And so when I came back to Hammond, I shared that story with her about the kids having family members in a different country. And she just teared up and she was like, I can't believe that you're able to do these type of things, to visit these people. And it just like, she was like, it reminds me of like when nuns used to come and visit at our ranch, and they would just bring so much happiness. It wasn't like so much that, well, it wasn't so much that they brought it, but it was just like the sharing of the food, the sharing of the community. It just makes people much more happier. So that's what I wrote about her. And I've always been thankful to her and my grandpa. Actually, my grandpa passed away 2 months before she did, but it wasn't because of COVID. He had a different disease. So it's been really hard, but because of both of them, we were able to do a lot of things.
When we get off this call, I'm going to ask if you can send me a copy of that article. I'd love to read it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So tell me a little bit about what happened when she contracted COVID. How did that happen? How long was she hospitalized? What were the circumstances?
Yeah, so she actually, we had her trapped inside her house for a very long time because we were scared of her contracting the virus. So the only place she was actually going was to the dialysis center. That was it. We didn't let her go out to stores. We didn't let her go out anywhere. We were doing all the shopping for her. And it seems to be that she probably contracted the virus there. I'm not exactly sure. No one knows, right? But it was really hard because we all contracted the virus. Our whole family did. So there was about 10 or 12 of us that had it, but we actually never got together as a family, which is the interesting part. But I think that when we were dropping off the food or just checking up on her, we probably all just kind of contracted through each other because we weren't even seeing each other, like my aunt or cousins, we weren't seeing each other. But we all had it at the same time. So when she got it, she entered the hospital on October 1st. And then we were all sick, and about a week before she passed away, she was on life support. And the thing that I will always be thankful was that because she had the virus for longer than a month, we were able to actually go and visit her. So I actually got to be there with her for a couple of days. I would say about more than a week. And I wasn't working at the time because of everything, and because my grandpa had just recently passed away. There was just so many feelings going through, so my job enabled me to be there. And so I was there with her for a couple of days. I would say long hours and as long as possible. And I was actually there at the moment that she passed away. So I'm thankful that she didn't pass away by herself, that my mom and dad were both present with her.
Your mom and dad were both there as well?
My mom and me.
Oh, okay.
My mom and me.
Okay. And this was your mom's mother?
Uh-huh, yes.
So how long had she been sick before she had to be hospitalized?
So about, I would say a week and a half before she entered the hospital, we started noticing some symptoms, but you know, this disease is so weird because we didn't catch on to it. There were things that you never could have imagined that were part of a virus. So like she was a bit confused. She was saying things that weren't like her thing. And so we thought, my mom even said, oh, you know, she's getting older, so it might be something like that. But then the day before we took her to the hospital, I noticed that her breathing was a little too fast. And so the next day she actually had to go to dialysis. but she was confused. She said that she couldn't take a step forward to walk. And my mom was like, what are you saying? Like, just take a step forward. She said, I can't. And so between her and my cousin, they carried her onto the van. And when she was in the van, she said, you know what? I don't feel good. I just don't feel good. You need to take me to the hospital. And yeah, that's when we figured out that she was hospitalized, and we were all working, and I had to leave my job because I said, well, you know, I visit my grandma, I take the food for her, and I sometimes stay over to make sure she's okay. I went home and took the test, and turned out that we were all positive.
Wow. Yeah. You said it was about a dozen folks in your family that were sick with it?
Let's see. Yeah, it was, I think 10 of us, yes.
Okay. Wow.
Funny thing was, my dad didn't contract it, and you know, we all lived together. My mom, my dad, and my sister. My dad didn't get it, and us three, we did. And then at my cousin's house, one of them didn't get it, and there's 7 of them. Yeah.
Well, it has to be hard when you're working so hard to keep her isolated, to do everything that they're asking you to do, and then she gets sick with this horrible thing anyway, and then to lose her life to it. Yeah,
definitely. I think that's been one of the hardest things for me. I've been searching around for therapy because I think that it's been affecting me in a very hard way. Yeah.
Well, I'm so sorry, and I hope you get the help that you're looking for. Do you remember what when you last spoke with your grandma, when she was last able to have a conversation with you? What did you talk about?
Let's see. Well, we had a lot of conversations. I would like to go to her house at night and we would just talk. I don't exactly remember the very, very last conversation we had, but I think we would mostly conversate about food.
Okay.
I think that the last time we conversated was that she had just recently discovered Panda Express. Like, she never had it before. And I had taken her a takeout of it, and she loved the way it tasted, and she always had a way to explain how food was so delicious. Yeah.
She was a food enthusiast, and she knew how to describe what she was eating.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things that, you know, in Mexico, she suffered a lot and she couldn't have the food that she wanted. And then when she got here to the US, she got to enjoy a lot of different foods from different places. So, yeah.
She, when she started out, it was kind of a struggling financial situation from Mexico to here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but she was able to buy a house here. And I think that was one of the biggest accomplishments. She bought a house here, and then they bought a house in Mexico as well.
Okay. What did she do? Did she have a career, or did her husband have a career?
She worked at a place that makes soaps somewhere in, I think, Roseland or something.
Okay.
She worked there for a couple of years. She also, I think her last job was doing window pieces, like she would make them at home.
Okay.
And then she just became a homemaker.
Okay. When did you lose your grandfather, her husband?
2 months before, on August 5th. I think that their love was so big. I mean, they fought, they had their bad history or whatever, but at the end of the day, we knew that they loved each other. In fact, a few months before COVID started becoming something big here, my grandma was living with us for a bit, and you could tell that my grandma missed her dearly. My grandpa would come and sneak in food or a gift for her. He even bought a whole TV to try and convince her to come back. And we're like, you need to calm down, you know, she's just here because we're taking care of her foot. She had like a foot problem. Like, she'll be back in a couple of days, but you could tell that they loved each other. And we sometimes think that it was really my grandpa calling her back. And so I guess that kind of brings a piece of a feeling of peace, because we're like, well, she might be happy, she's there with my grandpa, and everything might be going well.
What did your grandpa die of?
He had a disease called Wegener's disease.
Okay.
It's very, very rare. I think that only like 200,000 people in the whole entire world have it. I don't know, but it's very rare. And he actually lived with it for about 5 years. He would go through these treatments, and he was also a traveler, but he mainly went to Mexico, and he he was a little bit older. He was in his 80s. But yeah, so it's been hard, because we didn't expect for them to just leave, especially so close together. But when my grandma was in the hospital, she would when we weren't able to visit her yet, she would call us and tell us that she was seeing my grandpa, and my grandpa was telling her to go with her, and all these type of things. She was having all these dreams. So yeah.
Wow. So part of her illness late in the game, she was seeing your grandpa. She was envisioning these things.
Oh yeah. Before she got sick and entered the hospital, she told us that she had a dream that my grandpa was reaching out his hand, and that she was looking down upon him, and he was trying to pull her over. And my grandma would say that she would see his hands very, very clearly. Like, it seemed so real. And that she decided to grab his hand, and then they kind of like pulled each other towards together. And that's when she woke up. And my mom was a little bit worried because of the dream. And, she kept asking us, what do you think that means? What do you think that means? And we weren't sure, but, my mom mentions how she was like kind of scared, because usually those dreams mean that, they're going to take her away soon. And that's what ended up happening. Yeah.
So, and she was having these dreams while she was sick with COVID.
This dream was before COVID.
Okay.
And I think that, when she got COVID, that's when she was saying that she was seeing him in the room, in the hospital room. She told me that one day she heard his voice clearly saying, hey, because he would do that a lot. And she opened her eyes, and he said, levántate, get up. And that's when my grandma realized, like, he wasn't really there, but things were so clear to her. Yeah.
Wow. And you said he passed in August.
Yeah, he passed away in August.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing some of your family stories. If there's one thing that we haven't talked about that you would want everyone to know about your grandmother, what would it be? Something else that you could share?
Well, there's a lot of things. Let's see. Grandparents are very, very important to our culture. And oh man, I guess my advice to people, if you still have your grandparents alive, oh my gosh, they're a treasure. Like, take care of them. After my grandpa passed away, I was trying to figure out our family tree a little bit better. And I actually found these letters where my great grandparents were writing to my grandma. And I felt this deep connection. I felt like I found myself within my family and my history line. I don't know. But man, if people still have their grandparents, I advise them to hug them, ask them questions, be there with them, because I honestly didn't think that, I guess none of us expected this year, for it to be so tragic. And especially for us, our family, who lost 2 family members so quickly. you know, like one day you're okay and then the other you're not. And yeah, so my biggest advice is to take care of your grandparents and just kind of listen to them. I think that sometimes they have a different idea of you know, the way that they grew up, but they're still treasures. They're still something big.